but we live and direct FM Below Ground. Today we got a real special guest. So Leeds in the building, not the first time in Hong Kong. How we doing?
Yeah. We all good. We all good in Hong Kong. Good to be here.
Say less, man. This is your second time, I believe.
My second. Well, it's my fourth time. I've been here 4 times, but it's my second time like outside.
Okay. And I know the first time, most recently, it was Art Basel that you were here for Big Shots.
2017.
2017.
Yep.
And now that you're back again, I mean, we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff today, but before we get into it, what's the energy like? How are you feeling?
It feels great to be back, first of all. We all lost some time, so it feels like it wasn't that long ago, but it was a long time ago. And it's great to be back. I feel like the energy's good, and it's right. We're trying to pick up where we left off.
Of course. And you guys on the road right now with pledges. You guys got Tokyo Knicks. The larger conversation here is about the N.E.R.D collaboration, but how did you guys connect in the first place with
It's all just family. I worked with N.E.R.D for a really long time, and Pleasure is friends of mine from a whole nother sector of my life, and it's just part of their DNA with the music and the clothing collaboration. So it just came natural for me to make the introduction to Shay and the band, and connect them with Vlad and Alex. And then when it came time to do the launch, Vlad was just like, I really want to include Big Shots in part of the pop-up in Hong Kong, and I was like, that just sounds like something I want to do, of course. So we were all with it, and a bunch of the artifacts and the pop-up are like from my personal collection. The laminates come from me and the drummer from Spy Mob, Eric Fawcett. We put the laminates together, and my hats in the exhibit, whatever. We just kind of found some old artifacts from that era.
Sure.
And then Shay, and Vlad and the Pleasures team put the clothing together.
For sure. So it's definitely merchandise that represent a certain era, but also it's music culture, overall, like stretched out from artifacts to apparel to stories, and some of which hopefully we'll hear in this interview,
For sure.
Right now in Hong Kong, we're having a chat, and you're playing more of a role, pushing the book, curator, producer of such, but you've worn many hats throughout your career. How did you begin your time working in the music industry?
I kind of grew up in it. My father was in it, and so I knew I wanted to be in it. My dad managed artists, and I just knew I wanted to be on the artist side of things. Got out of college. I was in New York. Got an internship at Rush Producer Management, which was part of Def Jam, like the kind of second stage of Def Jam when it was at 160 Barrack. Chris Lighty and Violator, JMJ, Jam Master Jay had a record label there. A guy named Heavy Metal Scott had a heavy metal artist management company. Peter Thomas had a thing called How Can I Be Down? And the rest of it was Def Jam. And so from Rush Producer Management, I met Pharrell.
Okay.
Before they were in the Neptunes, like my other coworker Rob Walker managed them. Found connected them when they were trying to come. We were all trying to come up. We were all at that entry level stage. And I ended up working for Heavy Metal Scott. Worked with heavy metal bands. Lost touch with Rob and Pharrell. Pharrell and Chad blew up with the Neptunes.
Yeah.
I kind of just haphazardly reconnected with them. Ran into Pharrell at Fred Siegel in L.A.
Okay.
And then I was a tour manager at the time, and Khalees and N.E.R.D were all just starting. I finished a Khalees tour around the time that Pharrell and them got the Star Trek record deal.
Yeah.
Some staff shift around it, and I ended up finishing the tour with Khalees, and then that's when N.E.R.D started. And I was just N.E.R.D tour manager from then on out, and Pharrell's tour manager throughout, like, Clones Project and In My Mind, and And then Pharrell started Billionaire Boys Club with Nigo. We came to Japan, met Nigo, started Billionaire Boys Club, and I stopped touring. Worked at Billionaire Boys Club for about 7 years.
Yeah.
And then I put out the book. And
it's wild. I mean, I think
all those pictures are just from me being in this circle of music industry and fashion through all that is like the majority of how I cross paths with those people.
For sure. A lot of times we hear the record and we're like very inspired by maybe what that piece of music means to us personally, even though the artists themselves might not even be writing that music for you, you know, like we might be listening to a record and it might get us through hard times or whatnot. But what we don't realize sometimes is a huge team behind the artist, the production, the, you know, the crew to get the artist to where they are. And what I'm hearing here is, you know, apart from TMing, doing the tour management, you worked in fashion and brands, following the artist's career. So what are the parallels between tour management and, you know, doing the brands and the Billionaire Boys Club stuff, you know, because I guess they are in cohesion, but they're separate genres, right?
I think, you know, it might be unique to me, but I think with a lot of people, it's like you get an opportunity or your circle organically grows in a situation and you just got to figure it out.
Right.
You know, like I knew what I wanted to do, right? So I got an internship. I worked for a woman and a guy and a woman who managed like really big hip hop producers, right? And so I worked in the office, learned how that functioned, and then, you know, kind of like hopped offices down the hall and worked for an artist management, a little different than producer management. You know, artists do appearances and like learn that part of it, and then I wanted to travel, so I was working with artist management. And I was like, yo, I'm going to go on the road with these guys.
Right.
I'm going to still do my job, but I'm going to do it from the road because I want to go travel. I wanted to go to Europe. So I got a passport, and I told my boss that my boss kind of moved. Heavy Metal Scott got like the rock department got shifted out to L.A. And so Scott moved to L.A. I didn't want to move to L.A., so I went on the road.
Okay.
And just started traveling and taught myself how to tour manage.
Right.
Like just did it. That's what I was going to do. And, you know, same with the book. I wasn't even trying to be a photographer. I was just taking pictures.
Yeah.
Because I like taking pictures and, you know, got the opportunity. So I don't know if it's like a plan you could follow or something.
Yeah.
But the parallels is just like kind of like, you know, oh, this is what's in front of us. Let's figure out how to do it.
For sure.
And just like, I swear, it's like me, Rob Walker, my man Loic, we like figured out how to like launch. I mean, we had Japanese partners who were already doing it. Like Nigo had a well-oiled machine with Babe that was like our sister company. So we had like that advantage, but we had to figure out all the like America stuff.
For sure.
So, you know, just like kind of like do it from the grassroots. Like, you know, you just like y'all have a radio station. How'd you do this? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess that's right. Yeah, I don't know. You just do it. You figure it out.
You know what we're gonna do? Yeah. Okay, that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Now we're here. You know.
Now we have this problem. You know.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like just on that note, I was here yesterday, like sort of cutting up the lanyards and making up the AAA passes for the show that we're doing tonight with a band that we work with, a local punk band. And you were saying how you were doing the same thing for N.E.R.D on the road, and you were just in it, and you know, figuring it out as you go along type situation.
I had a laminate machine.
Right.
I made the laminates. I like got a printer. I made the laminates. I, you know, sat there and like made 14 of them for us, and like, you know,
that's and a lot of that is just kind of going to a situation and be like, okay, you know, some of this is covered. There's production is whatnot, but sometimes you just gotta get your hands dirty and just do it, right? Because
well, you know, you're where you're at the time. Like think about where you all started. It's like, you know, I literally was when I started tour managing, we were like, I drove a van with a punk rock band around in America. And then like I just remember like the band so badly wanted to have a bus and like get out of the fucking van. The van life was hell, you know, right? And it, like as a young band, you just fantasized about the bus. And then when we got to that bus level, it's like, nah, we should still be in a van. But they're like, nah, we got to get a bus. And we got the shittiest bus, like the Death Trap bus, like. It was crazy. Yeah. But it was like such a relief for them, and they felt like they leveled up, right? And then like, you know, so I started with these punk rock bands in a van and ended up touring with Pharrell and N.E.R.D. and like, you know, real buses and private jets and fucking pink champagne and, you know, started from the bottom. Yeah, like but I had that whole gamut of experience, and it was also cool to work with like the metal bands, and like, you know, I worked with bands that opened up for Black Sabbath and Slayer and all kind of Slipknot, and
for sure. I think, you know,
which is kind of like how the book is so wild, because like, you know, I was in fashion and I was in like hip hop and you know, whatever N.E.R.D is, and also heavy metal stuff, and New York City. So it's like it's a very interesting mix of people in the book.
for sure. You know, now we're so blessed to be able to have so many genres and cultures at our fingertip, you know, whether you're on Spotify or Bandcamp or the internet as a whole. And we're talking today about like Egyptian drill music or Cantonese punk. When you were shooting those images, I get a feeling, and correct me if I'm wrong, that, you know, the band and the rap world was still kind of individual streams, but there was cross-pollination. I think, you know, N.E.R.D played a pretty big role in merging.
Yeah, and also, I mean, like we were talking yesterday, and somebody referred to N.E.R.D as a hip hop band, and I was like, they're not really a hip hop band. They're hip hop adjacent, and Pharrell and Chad were making all the hip hop, right? But N.E.R.D, when you listen to it, there's no rapping. I mean, it's production. There's some production, and like, there's an undercurrent of, you know, hip hop or urban production or whatever. Like, Pharrell knows how to like engineer music to sound, you know, bottom end heavy and whatever. It's, you know, a lot of it's programmed, but they're not. It's not like the Roots and N.E.R.D are like doing the same thing. Like, you know, the Roots are like the quintessential hip hop band, and N.E.R. like I don't even put like N.E.R.D like in that same lane.
Sure.
And like, so it's like the Neptunes is the cross pollination to N.E.R.D. It's like Pharrell and Chad being also the Neptune is how, you know, rappers would be at the N.E.R.D shows and stuff.
Right.
And Timberlake would be at the N.E.R.D shows because he was producing that R&B stuff.
Right. Dialing back to the sort of, you know, you were talking about Def Jam, and then Star Trek Entertainment came through, right? So there was a sort of intersection between Neptunes and N.E.R.D starting their own label versus being signed to a major. I mean, I guess that Star Trek was also backed by a major, right? But
well, Rob Walker and I both worked at companies out of Def Jam, and like we never really worked for Def Jam. We worked for Rush, and then through like just corporate like mergers and stuff, all those little companies got removed from Def Jam, and Def Jam became like a bigger major label. It became Isla Def Jam. And so Rob Walker had been working with Franny and managing the Neptunes, and he wasn't part of anything. And then he got the Neptunes. Rob, Pharrell, and Chad got a deal with Arista, which was the parent company of Star Trek. So they like opened up under a different major than where our offices was when we first started out. When we were all like, you know, in the house.
And how did that change the way things were done? Like, did the lanyard still have to be handmade? Like, how was there a pivot?
Well, no, that was like right at the same time. Like, right when this all happened, like really at the same time around the early 2000s. I can't remember exactly what year it was, but I was the only one who really had any touring experience with a live band, and like when I started working with N.E.R.D, they had done 2 or 3 shows with Chad DJing, and then they, you know, put out an album and became a band, and we got the live band from Seattle, Spy Mob, Eric Fawcett, John Otsby, Brent Paschke, and Christian Twig. Shout out to those guys. And we played at RFK Stadium in Washington, D.C., which is like the most giant football stadium ever. We played this radio show, and it was like the first time there was rehearsals, whatever, but it was the first time playing with a live band. And we went on the road from there, and like I was making the laminates. They're in that frame. The first ones I made were the All Access because I'm the shit. I just took lyrics off the album. So I made the All Access pass that said All Access because I'm the shit. And the VIP one said you can get this VIP here for free.
Right.
And I just, I just went on a roll from that. I made all the first merch.
Yeah.
I did all like the Brain is for Lovers shirt, the Provider shirt. We had a bunch of like just logo shirts too, but it was totally like, and I feel like, I wasn't really at the office at Star Trek, but I feel like Rob and Loic and Nicole Planton, we were all brand new and like all just figuring out. That was the first time like any of us like started getting things off the ground.
Sure.
So,
I mean, the brain emblem has become so iconic.
Shepard Fairey did it.
Right. And, what's always been so interesting about tapping into N.E.R.D sort of like vault is like looking at these references and be like, well, actually, there's all this culture happening from like art, music, fashion, and they all kind of come through this sort of funnel. And my question to, the guy that was on the road and managing, how did you sort of A&R all these projects? Like, were you constantly tapped in with different conversations? How did these like, these slogans on lanyards become like, what you're constantly writing notes or like?
With the touring, it was like, I wasn't involved with like a lot of the bigger picture conversations that were going on business wise. Like I was just Sean Connery in Red October on the touring stuff. And like, we were just out on the road and, sort of like I said before, making it happen.
Yeah.
And figuring it out as we went along.
Sure.
So when it came to like the travel and, show logistics and can we do this or that or schedule wise, that was like my department. But like the bigger picture deals were like Rob and like and the Star Trek people,
For sure.
office staff.
For sure. And then from doing the merchandise to what became BBC, what were the certain things that you could bring from like, doing the merchandising for live shows to actually now running a brand, right? Because I feel like there's the graphic styles, there were similarities, although Billionaire Boys Club went kind of crazy as well. Like
The origins of Billionaire Boys Club in terms of the graphics is all Lego and skate thing and all, like the original stuff. When I started, I wanted to stop touring. I had been living out of a suitcase forever. And I was like, please, like, let me stay home.
right.
We didn't, again, Rob Walker, Loic, and myself just sort of winged it. And, we launched the brand. We had a showroom sell the first season. We placed an order for a website. 100 and something boxes showed up from Japan a couple months later. And me, Loic, and Rob broke those boxes down, shipped them out to the wholesale orders, turned on the website, got like 1,000 orders, and, got a UPS account and started shipping orders.
Right.
Until we, figured out like all the pieces that we had to figure out to be like an operating Death Star instead of like, some rebel soldiers on the ground, like with like, not having it together. Like, you got to get it together.
Crazy.
And then later on, I got into like the creative side of the brand. Like, I would have ideas. I've always been a creative person. I would have ideas that I would send them the skate thing.
Yeah.
And skate thing would skate thing them.
Yeah.
And then they become part of BBC. And then later on, after we split ways with the Japanese company, I got into more of the creative role than the brand direction and stuff.
Got it. I see a lot of the early sort of footage of Pharrell being in Japan, you sort of helping out with the conversations, but then Toby Felt Well helping out the conversations with Nigo as well. What were some of those early conversations like, connecting both sides of the planet,
Those early trips were really, really special times, and like just being in the room and like, what my role was at that time was sort of like a conversation conductor, and I always like put my 2 cents in when I felt something. And so we would come here for we would come to Tokyo for sample reviews, and go through each piece and like have these like creative conversations with the Japanese production team, and like it was always like we would get here at the rough draft stage and kind of fine tune stuff, and it would always be like kind of presented to Pharrell, and then Pharrell would comment on it. We'd all comment on it, and then that would become the collection.
For sure. Damn. So I feel like those was pretty instrumental years to everything that came after as well. Because even looking at like Pharrell's work right now with Human Made and sort of the 2023 joint partnerships with kind of like the N.E.R.D project, what was some of like the, I wouldn't say misconceptions, but some of the hard things that you guys had to work on that maybe as a fan or audience wouldn't have realized that you guys were working through, stuff to get a record off the ground or get a tour to run smoothly?
I think the thing that I experienced the most was just like the multifacetedness of Pharrell. Pharrell has so many different things that he does that, time for N.E.R.D, time to go on the road, time to be in the studio, time to do BBC, time to do the other things that he does that he doesn't even talk about. He's just like a machine that has a lot going on. And so, to coordinate all those moving parts and, logistically line up the time for all those things and, killing multiple birds, or however you want to say it, on the same trip. Like, we're going to be here, so let's do this, that, and the third. We're going to go in the studio. We got a show, we got meetings. It's like a lot, and like, when are we going to sleep?
Right.
Oh, shit. It's a 9-hour trip. We only have 3 hours. Like, what we got to do? So that, but there's so many moving parts when you're that big of a star,
For sure. With the book itself, I want to learn more about some of the characters you've photographed. You mentioned that some of these personalities have been in the orbit of your world, via travels, but also like working in different genres in the field. I know a few of the faces, but there's a few that I don't know. Would you want to introduce some of the people that you've shot that bring back good memories?
I mean, a lot. When I first started, it was very intimate. It was like my inner circles, even though there was celebrity. And then when I got the opportunity to do the book, I kind of started going harder now that I had a book. So I was like, kind of like, oh, I can get at that person. Let me just like make the call and go, just go grab a picture real quick. So it became a little less intimate. We got Nino Scalia,
For sure.
the guy with the glasses smoking the cigarettes. I might have pronounced his last name wrong. Scalia. Nino was the ice cream skate team manager. Back in the day with the first version of ice cream.
I see Jimmy up there as well.
Jimmy Skateboard.
Yeah.
Jimmy Sweatpants.
Sweatpants.
AKA Jimmy Sweatpants. Both of those guys are like really close friends of mine and great people. Nino's very sad he's not here, and like made us take a picture with his picture.
For sure. Whose dogs are those? Like, there's a few puppies in there that made the cameo as well.
I can't remember the pug's name.
Right.
And I think I know whose pug it is, but I reached out and they didn't reply. The Westie's my dog, Ruff.
Okay.
Ruff passed away, R.I.P. Ruff. He passed away in 22? I think last year. Very good dog.
Right.
Solid dog. And a local legend himself in New York City.
For sure.
Ruff worked at BBC with me throughout the whole BBC showroom years. And Andre Leon Talley, who also passed away recently, was Ruff's dear friend. Like, Andre and Ruff were closer than me and Andre.
I see Ricky Powell out there as well.
Shout out to Ricky Powell. All right.
RP.
There's a couple. There's several fallen brothers up there. Mac Miller, Sponto.
Yeah.
Chimo Du is an amazing photographer. It's interesting, like, as like the years go by, like, definitely people have like fallen out.
Yeah.
It's weird.
For sure.
It's like a yearbook from a certain era, and like as time goes on, like, we lost a bunch of people from the book, and it's crazy.
And are you continuing the Big Shot series in that sense, or is it a time capsule with
I got volume 2 coming out.
Okay.
It's coming out in March, and I dare say it might be better than Volume 1.
Right.
It's solid, and it's a little bigger. It's like the last hurrah. There's no more film.
Mm.
I have 4 pictures left, and I think that's the wrap for Big Shots.
Right.
I think I'm gonna still like leave it there. And I mean, I don't know. I think about it all the time. Like, should I get another camera? Like, what am I gonna do about, you know, good worse. There's no more of this Polaroid film, so this Fuji film.
Yeah.
So,
I remember.
but I kind of like it. It's kind of like a natural wrap it up.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like Dave Chappelle. Wrap it up.
Yeah. In terms of projects, like having worked on, you know, from the music industry to being on the road, photography, from a creative standpoint, does the end of a project mean something else is on the way? How do you kind of like hold on to nostalgia while looking ahead?
Well, I'm very nostalgic, and definitely, you know, have like a fond like reminiscing of the past. But I do a lot of like, you know, behind the scenes cultural currency connection, and you know, work with young people and try to stay in the mix. And I'm always got too many projects going on, and I'm not sure what that sounded like a creative thing. Like, this is like very like I think I said to you before, it wasn't really something I was trying to do. It just sort of, I got the opportunity and it happened. So I feel like already like way ahead of the game, or like I got handed a gift, and I don't know what I'll get into next. You know, it's all been kind of like that. My whole career just stems from that internship, right? And then like I worked for the company, the Def Jam. I ran into Pharrell, and then all this shit happened since then has sort of been related to the Pharrell world and my past world. You know what I mean? And like the connections I've made along the way have led to like the things I do now, and I'm sure the things I'll do in the future.
For sure. Thanks so much for your time, man. I mean, before we wrap it up as well, because we're just on the note.
Thanks for your time. I love Yeti Out. When I first came to Hong Kong, like, you know, I said I've been here a couple of times before that, but I wasn't really like in touch with anybody local. And then I came in 2017 and met you guys. KP brought me out, and like, it's I feel at home when I'm here, and I really appreciate you guys.
No, I appreciate you for coming to the party. Man, that's always. I remember you coming to our Cake Shop Art Basel party, and we're like,
I got trashed.
Yo, 100 bait. That's what we do best, man. We make sure people get juiced.
Jaeger bombs.
Yeah. And it's, you know, just on the note of traveling and, you know, being blessed to do what we get to do on the road. Like, are there certain like stories that now and again you hark back to that you go, wow, was that real?
All the time. I mean, just to see being out here with Shay and talking about like old times, and I mean, just so many stories. I was just telling Vlad this morning about we were on tour in Europe and got flown out to Milan to do a private show for Donatella Versace's daughter's Sweet 16.
Right.
And like ended up at the Versace house, and like it was just all across the board bananas.
Right.
And the best Italian food.
Right.
Best Italian food ever. And just like I was at Nelson Mandela's house. It's like, what? Like, I have a picture like me and like Rob and like Pharrell and Nelson Mandela on his porch in South Africa, just like on the porch. It's crazy. Like, you're like, what? So I think about it all the time, and like, you know, I wish I remembered more. It's all kind of a blur.
So one big night out.
A little bit. Like, I mean, I definitely have like a non-traditional tour manager style.
Yes.
I feel like a lot of tour managers stay out of it, and I definitely got in it. But that's how I am, you know. And like, you know, Shay's a really good friend of mine. It's great to be on the road with him again. We were talking about it yesterday or the day before about like, you know, it's crazy. Like, it's been a long time that we've been being in far off lands together, and definitely experiencing things, you know, meeting cool people and fucking expanding our networks and whatever. It's dope.
It's crazy because I feel like, you know, now obviously the music industry is constantly evolving, but I guess for anyone tuned in to the show, listening, like, is there like a rule book that anyone follows if they want to work with artists? Like, what do you think is something that you could share given your experience as someone tuned in to be like, you know, I want to work with someone like Shay, Pharrell, Chad, etc.?
I feel like you gotta get in at the ground level and like from within your world, find some dope shit and help it grow. You know, be a man. You know, anybody can be a manager, and all of a sudden you're a manager. You know, it's like if you find a dope artist, you can be an A&R person. You know, advocate for that artist and start pushing it. You know, find radio stations, find shows. You know, whatever, but you got to get in the mix, and you can't expect to like, oh, I'm gonna go work for Pharrell. Like, no, you're not. You know, maybe you will. Maybe, like, that definitely happens. You know, people definitely end up working for Pharrell. But I'm saying, I feel like, you know, you just got to get in the. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And get involved and, you know, seek out talent or you know, work on your own talent.
Sure. Appreciate you, man.
Cool. Love you guys, man.
100%, man.
Yeti out.
Say less.